Hi you guys, it's me, Nikita Lene. Today I want to talk to you guys about job interviews and how to prepare for them, what to do mentally and physically to prepare yourself so you can totally rock that job interview and get the dream job. Stay tuned. Number one, right off the top, is going to be your resume. Your resume speaks for you. It's a story of you and all your awesomeness, and it speaks for you when you're not even there in the room. So you want to make sure your resume sparkles and shines in any way possible. So how do you make sure that your resume shines? Number one, you want to make sure it doesn't have any mistakes or errors on it. The best way to do this is to make sure that you look over it several times. It's always helpful to look at it again with a fresh set of eyes, because after looking at it for 5, 10, 15 minutes or even up to an hour of tweaking it and making sure it's correct, your eyes are going to kind of glance over things that you've seen several times over. So you want to take a break and come back and look at it again, looking specifically for any errors such as spacing issues, spelling errors, or anything like that. You always want to cater your resume to the job description. So the best thing to do is to pull both of them up on your screen at the same time. While you're combing through the job description, you want to look for specific details that they add in there and tasks and skills that they expect you to be able to do, and ensure that you're adding those things in your resume to make sure that your resume is showing them, hey, I'm the candidate for the job. Now with nursing, this can be a little bit tricky. If you know specifically what type of nurse you want to be, what department you want to work in, then you may only have one resume that you kind of, tweak to match that specific job that you're applying for. For some nurses, like me, for example, I knew I wanted to do med-surg, but I was keeping myself open. So I had several different resumes, and I took each one and catered it to the specific job that I was applying for. For example, I have a labor and delivery resume. I have a resume for a mother-baby unit, and I have a med-surg resume. I take those and I tweak them to accommodate to the specific job description for that specific job as I go. So make sure that you're doing this with each and every job you apply to. That's going to make sure that you are the perfect candidate for the job. When they're reading your resume, you want them to say, oh my goodness, this person just checks every single box of what we're looking for. Take additional time to really write down some of your accomplishments and your highlights of your career thus far. If you have previous work experience, make sure you're marking some of the things that you accomplished that show that you are an outstanding worker or leader in whatever career field you previously worked in. If you volunteer, add things like that. Even if you did different types of government and volunteer work while you were in nursing school, everything counts. Remember that they're looking for someone who's going to want to work hard, who's willing to put the work in, who's willing to put themselves out there and go the extra mile. So anything that you have in your life that reflects that, you want to make sure it's shown on your resume. Understand that HR is going to look at thousands of applications, especially if you're looking to apply to internships. So you really want to have things on your resume that are going to make you sparkle and shine and stand out from the crowd. Next, you want to make sure that your references are legit. You want to make sure that they are people that will vouch for you and speak highly of you. So make sure you're picking people that you have real great life experiences with. Now for nursing students, we always feel like, oh, if we could just put our clinical instructor, that'll look really good. But it doesn't necessarily have to just be your clinical instructors or your didactic instructors. You can always use people from your previous jobs, from volunteering, maybe even if you have a family that you work for that you used to nanny for, anything that's relative to working. And when I say work, I mean you're going out in the community doing work, feeding the homeless, doing Habitat for Humanity, anything like that. Even if it's a job that's not necessarily medically related from your past, work is work. And you want someone who's going to speak towards your dedication, your hard work, towards the fact that you are an honest and hardworking person. So making sure that you pick someone that's really going to speak highly of you, and making sure that that person is, really willing to vouch for you and speak for you in a high aspect or in a high regard is going to make sure that they help to add that extra sparkle to. You want to make sure that it's someone who is, very eloquently spoken, someone who's going to go and step out there and really advocate on your behalf. You don't want to pick that one person who's going to be like, yeah, she was okay, and one time she helped me and she was good. Like, no. You need to have someone who's going to be willing to go in on details on how you helped them with the project and how you advocated for behalf of a patient one time, or how you go above and beyond what's expected of you. Someone who's really going to speak highly of you because they are an extension of your resume. You don't want to have this amazing resume that you spend so much time building and then you have a person who doesn't really reflect that. You want to make sure that they are all cohesive and that those people are really making your resume and making you as a candidate for this job shine above the rest. Tip number 2 is to do your research. So you nailed it on applying for the job. Your resume shined and sparkled. You had your references together. Now you're going to prepare to sit down in front of that future boss or that future nurse manager. Before you sit down in front of that interviewer, you want to make sure you do your research. This includes making sure that you know what are the hospital's views, what are their goals, what are their values. The reason you want to know these things is because, number one, this is an organization that you are applying to work at. You obviously want to make sure that this is a facility that has views and values and goals that you can get behind, things that align with you and your own vision for yourself as a nurse, as a future nurse. So you want to make sure that you understand what those are. Additionally, when you're answering questions in your interview, you want to make sure that you are adding those things into your answers. This shows the interviewer, number one, that you did your research. You took that extra time and that extra step to ensure that you knew about this facility and that you know what their goals and their vision is. That is definitely going to make you shine. But number two, adding those things into your answers shows the interviewer that your views and your work ethic and everything that has to do with you as an individual is going to line up with what they want and what they're looking for. Just the same as we made sure our resume that we turned in matched the job description, you're making sure that you in the flesh and your answers are matching what they're looking for. This is like the double check, making sure that you are definitely going to sparkle. This interviewer is going to know right out the gate, you have the attention to detail, you are willing to do the extra homework, and that you are on top of things when it comes to preparing for your interview. And honestly, although it seems like it's something super duper simple, a lot of people don't take that extra step. So it's definitely going to help you shine a little brighter than the rest. A part of doing your research is looking for possible questions that hospital will ask you. Now, there's a couple places that you could possibly find this. You can look online, and sometimes it'll pop up online the most popular questions that particular hospital's HR department is going to ask you in an interview. However, those are not always accurate. Another place you can search would be your student services. Our student services at my particular school, they have a program where they ask students after they do job interviews, hey, what questions did they ask you? And they formulate like a database for them. This helps. So if you go see student services and say, I have an interview with this hospital, they can print out a list of questions that hospital has asked previous students in job interviews. This is a phenomenal resource in helping you prepare for these interviews so you have an idea of how to answer some of these tough questions. So we're on to the third step, and the third step is practice. Some of the things that you want to practice are going to be answering questions, your body mannerisms, the clarity of your answers, just to name a few. I think a lot of people don't really recognize some of our body mannerisms and our facial expressions. Sometimes when we're frustrated or flustered or confused, our faces are the dead giveaway. So you want to practice answering questions so that they come with ease. One of the best ways to do this is to look online at some of the most common questions for nurse interviews and then type out your answers. Make sure your answers are very well thought out. Make sure you're using real life examples when they ask you, can you give me an example of a time, so that everything flows clearly and it's very concise, it's to the point. You want to make sure your answers are not completely drawn out where it takes you 5 minutes to explain one thing and you're all over the place. You're able to explain things sequentially and clearly. If there's a question that you feel like you're having a hard time with, try sitting down, typing out your answer, and coming back to it. Repeat the answer over and over again, practicing in front of a mirror so that when it's time to answer that question in an interview or even a question that's similar, you're able to answer clearly. The last step to practicing is to record yourself answering questions. Now, this can be hard, getting in front of a camera and having to watch yourself answer these questions, but it'll be a great opportunity to critique yourself. Watch your mannerisms and your facial expressions and some of the answers. When you're listening to your responses, find out areas that you can take out or possible details that you need to add clarity to your responses. This is a great way to really, really critique yourself and make sure that you are truly prepared for those questions. Step 4 is presenting yourself for the interview. This is all about you and how you present yourself. Now, this includes showing up early for your interview, being presentable, being kind, making sure that you're flexible. For example, if they need to change the time of your interview, don't be rude about it. Make sure that you are gracious and grateful, making sure you're using your manners when you're speaking to people. Although this all seems like, simple kindergarten things, how we present ourselves prior to our interview really sets the tone going forward. So make sure you show up for your interview at least 15 to 20 minutes early so that you don't get lost. You know exactly where you're supposed to be. And it really shows the interviewer that you are serious about being there, you're serious about being on time, and they need to know that you're able to be on time for this job. Why not show them by setting the tone for your interview? Also, this includes being confident, having confidence in yourself. Confidence goes a long way, and it speaks volumes when you're able to sit up straight in a job interview, look the interviewer in the eyes, and answer questions with confidence. It also shows them that, hey, I may not know everything as a brand new nurse, but I'm willing to show up, I'm able to be professional, I'm on time, and I am able to answer these questions confidently. And that goes a long way when it comes to representing yourself, because you are going to be a representative of their organization. So make sure that from the very first encounter with this facility that you are showing nothing but professionalism and really representing yourself as an extension of a future employee at this organization. This also includes looking professional. You've worked so hard to get all the way to this point, to even get this interview with this hospital that you've been dreaming of working at for so long. Making sure that you are looking the part makes such a difference. Making sure you go out of the way to make sure your nails are done, or keep them at least trimmed and cleaned. You're representing yourself in that moment, and you want to make sure that you look professional from your head down to your toes. Making sure your shoes are clean. Ladies, it's okay to wear makeup, maybe not overdoing your makeup. You want to make sure that that interviewer is paying attention to you and not, oh my gosh, like, why is he wearing this wrinkly t-shirt, or why is she wearing this wrinkly shirt, or why, you don't want any of those distractions getting in the way. You want them to look at you and listen to your wonderful answers that you've constructed for these really tough questions that they're going to ask you. And you want them to be focused on, wow, this person would be a great nurse to work at our facility, not necessarily what you wore to the interview. So make sure that you prepare your outfit ahead of time, making sure everything fits properly, everything is comfortable to be able to sit upright at an interview for however long that interview may be. Some interviews last over an hour, so you want to make sure that you're comfortable, but you're also professional. How you present yourself also includes making sure that you bring a copy of your resume. You want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date copy that has any updates on it, to include if you just took boards and you passed. You want to make sure that your resume now says registered nurse instead of student nurse. You want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information on your graduation date and things like that. Making sure you have that copy with you and you're able to hand it to the interviewer so that they can review it while you're speaking is so important. Lastly, when it comes to doing your research, having a question ready for the interviewer really sets you apart. So if you do your research and you have a specific question ready that has to do with that particular unit or that hospital, it definitely gets the interviewer to think, and it kind of lets them know that you're serious about the job. So some examples of questions you can ask can include questions about their clinical ladder program, and you can ask about their staff turnover rates. Things like that show that not only are you doing your own research about this particular location or this unit, but it shows that you're invested in that unit. You really want to know what it's about. You really want to know more about them, and you are really preparing to stay for the long haul. So you finished the interview, and of course you nailed it. Now we're on to step 6, the follow-up. Sending a follow-up email is a simple way of bringing yourself back to the forefront of that interviewer's mind. Sometimes nurse managers or HR interviewers will go through 5 to 20 interviews in one day, and it's kind of hard to differentiate between everyone that they've sat with in that day. If you send a follow-up email saying, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity. I enjoyed learning about you and your team and look forward to speaking to you in the future. It's super simple, super short, but it brings you back to the forefront of their memory, and they'll say, oh, I remember interviewing her and she was on point, or I remember interviewing him and his answers were so clear and concise. Those simple reminders will put you just a step ahead of the competition and help them to maybe even push your resume to the top of the list. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I hope it definitely helps you to prepare for that dream job that you have lined up. Or even if you're new nurses and you're watching this video, I hope it just helps you to mentally prepare for that job interview in the future. Remember to be confident in yourself. Remember to sit up tall and straight, and to just show that interviewer who you really are and that you are really ready to take on this position. I will be compiling a list of the top 25 questions that are asked at nurse interviews for you guys. I will find a way to link it to this video for you. Please, please, please review them, type out your answers, prepare for this interview, and I promise if you do the work, your dream job is out there for you. Thanks again for watching, you guys. Take care.